What we're going to talk about today is density. We've already touched on it, but today we're going to go into more detail and we'll do some practice examples of how you can find density as well as the other two components of the equation, mass and volume. Let's start with a definition. Density is mass per unit volume. Another way to say that would be how heavy is it for its size. The equation, which we already know for density, is density equals mass divided by volume. The symbol for mass is M and the symbol for volume is V. If you have two of the things that are listed in the equation, you can find the third. So any two of the three things and you can figure out what the third one is. In order to solve this equation for each of the three parts, you have to do a little algebra. I've already done that for you. So here's the equation rearranged in three different ways. Density equals mass divided by volume, volume equals mass divided by density, or mass equals density times volume. If you don't want to use it that way, you can always go back to your algebra triangle. You remember which things to put where in the triangle using this phrase, mountains over Death Valley. So that means put mass in the top, density, and volume in the bottom. Let's look at each component of the equation in a little more detail. Mass is the amount of matter in an object. If we were to find mass or to need to find mass in a lab situation, we would use the balance or a scale. The unit for mass most often will be grams. You could use kilograms or milligrams or something else depending on the size of the object you needed to find the mass for, but most often we will use grams. What about volume? Volume is the amount of space an object takes up. How do we find the volume? There's two different ways that we will use. If you have an object that is not a cube or a box shape, you would find its volume by water displacement. That means you'd put a certain amount of water into a graduated cylinder, put the object in, and look to see how much the water goes up. If you find the volume by water displacement, it's usually written as a volume in milliliters. If your object is a box or a cube, then you can find the volume using length times width times height. If you find the volume that way, then it's usually written as a volume in centimeters cubed or meters cubed. Both of those are cubed because of what you have to do to find them. Length times width times height. That would be 3 centimeters being multiplied, so it would be centimeters cubed. So what is density then? What's the unit that we would use for the label? Since the equation for density says mass divided by volume, that's what the label is too. The label for mass, which is grams, divided by the label for volume, which is either milliliters or centimeters cubed. We can get two pieces of information from the density of an object. Density will tell us why some objects sink or float when you put them in water, because the density of water is 1. If an object has a bigger density than that, it will sink. If an object has a smaller density than that, it will float. And it also tells us the identity of an object. Every specific substance has its own density. Density is a physical property of that substance. So every different kind of metal has a density, every kind of wood has a density. You can figure out what the substance is based on what the density is. Let's do some examples. What is the density of a block of granite with a mass of 594 grams and a volume of 216 centimeters cubed? First, let's make a list of what we know and what we're looking for. We know that the mass is 594 grams. We also know that the volume is 216 centimeters cubed. And we are looking for the density. Because our volume is in centimeters cubed, our density will also use centimeters cubed. Draw your triangle, or look at your foldable. Mountains over Death Valley. Cover the D, and the rest tells you what to do. Density equals mass divided by volume. So we take 594 divided by 216, and our density equals 2.75 grams per centimeter cubed. Let's do the next one. A 40 centimeter cubed sample of quartz has a density of 2.65 grams per centimeter cubed. What is the mass of the sample? Let's make our list of what we know and what we're looking for. We know 40 centimeters cubed. What is that? Centimeters cubed is the volume. So 40 centimeters cubed is the volume of this sample of quartz. The density is 2.65 grams per centimeter cubed. What is the mass of the sample? And we know that mass is going to come out in grams. Draw your triangle or look at your foldable. Mountains over Death Valley. We need to cover the M, and the rest tells us what to do. Mass is equal to density times volume. So our mass is going to be equal to 2.65 times 40. Mass turns out to be 106 grams. One more example. Wood has a density of 5.53 grams per centimeter cubed. What is the volume of a 33.3 gram piece of wood? So what do we know? We know the density. .53 grams per centimeter cubed. We're being asked for the volume. We're given the mass. We know that's the mass because it's in grams. 33.3 grams is the mass. And we are looking for volume. Volume is going to be in centimeters cubed. Draw your triangle. Mountains over Death Valley. Cover up the V, and the rest tells you what to do. Volume equals mass divided by density. So the volume is equal to 33.3 grams divided by 5.53. Volume comes out to be 6.02 centimeters cubed.